Next, let's go ahead and tackle putting that zipper in the top of the bag. So let's go through the pieces that you need to do that. The first thing you need is you need your zipper piece. Now this is a 30-inch zipper. And you may measure that and go, wait, this is not 30 inches. But a 30-inch zipper means that it's 30 inches from this point to the other point. So the actual zipper part is 30 inches, but then you've got a little bit of extra on the ends that doesn't really count towards that measurement. So I just don't want you to think that you've bought the wrong size zipper, because all the pieces are kind of made to fit together really well. So you're gonna have your 30-inch zipper, and then you're going to have your zipper panel pieces. So these are cut from the piece on the pattern. You're gonna have one piece for the zipper panel outside right, zipper panel outside left. But I kind of just don't worry about what's right and left, and you just need 2 for the front and 2 for the inside. So for the zipper panel pieces that are going on the outside of the bag, you want to go ahead and iron your fusible fleece to the wrong side of those. And then for the zipper panel pieces that are going on the bag lining, you want to go ahead and iron your lightweight interfacing onto the back of those. The other thing you want to do before you start is you want to double check that you have marked the center front on all of your zipper panel pieces. So you can see right here, I've got it marked. If you haven't marked it, go ahead and pause for a second and mark it, because this will be the simplest step to mark that, and you're gonna need it later on when you're constructing the pattern. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pin these pieces together so we can sew them. As a general rule, when you work with the zipper, the right side of the zipper, so the right side of the zipper would be the side that the poles are on, faces the right side of the fabric. So we're gonna start by pinning the right side of the zipper to the right side of my outside bag piece, one of those. And my zipper is a hair longer, maybe just 1/8 an inch longer than my piece of fabric. So I'm just gonna make sure everything's centered up really well there. What you wanna do is go ahead and pin this. You don't need to pin it I would say every like 8 inches or so, because we're gonna pin it again. So what you wanna do is you just wanna kind of hold this in place. Make sure you've got it on a nice flat surface. Okay, so now I've got that pinned. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take one of your zipper lining pieces and you're gonna pin the right side of that to the wrong side of the zipper. So I'm just gonna kind of lay it out first, make sure everything's all lined up. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pin it. You just wanna make sure all of your edges, the edge of the zipper and the edge of the fabric, are all lined up just right. Okay. And you're gonna wanna use a fair number of pins for this part, just because this is kind of an important piece. Now, I'm not removing the zippers I used to pin the first piece on. I'm just gonna kind of stand them up and make sure that all my pins are showing so I can see them and I don't sew over them with the machine. Because I don't sew over pins. I know everybody says you can, but the one time I did, I broke the needle. So I'm not doing that anymore. Okay, so now we've got that. Okay. Now you notice that this zipper pull is kind of getting in the way, but I'm going to show you what to do about that as we get going. Okay, so you got that pinned. Now you're going to go ahead and you're going to move to your sewing machine. And you're going to want to go ahead and put the zipper foot on your machine. Every machine, the zipper foot will look a little bit different, but the idea is that you have part of your foot will hold your fabric in place while the needle stitches, so that you can kind of get real close to that zipper, and you need a narrow foot to do that. So as a general rule, when I'm stitching layers of fabric together and I have some pieces of fabric that are thicker than others, I always like to put the most lightweight fabric down so it faces the feed dogs, because what that will do is it's going to help to kind of feed the lightweight fabric through, and it's not going to pucker as much. So you're going to go ahead and put the zipper foot on. I'm going to make sure I've got that on the right way. Now you've got a needle right and a needle left on this. So a lot of people will ask me, like, you know, what's the seam allowance for this? And the seam allowance is kind of like the width of your zipper foot, but as a kind of a general rule, since you're dealing with a little bit thicker fabric and a little wider zipper, is you want about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. If you get that seam too close to the zipper, you're not gonna be able to unzip and unzip the zipper very easily. So I've got it set is just a click past center. I mean, my needle will go all the way over there, but I'm not going to take it that far over. I'm going to kind of keep it real close to just the width of the zipper. Okay, so now I've got that down. I know where my zipper is, so I'm not going to sew over it. I'm just going to go ahead and start stitching. Okay, and then I'm going to keep stitching, just keeping that edge of that zipper foot lined up with the edge of my fabric. Okay, now, look, okay, so this is getting ready to be a problem. So I've got the needle down on my machine. If your needle's not down, go ahead and use your crank, move it down. And then what you're gonna do is you're just gonna kind of slip your hand in there and grab that zipper and pull it to the part you've already sewn. So now it's out of the way, it's not gonna bother you anymore. So go ahead, now you're just gonna finish stitching that all the way down the edge. Move quickly, but keep your pieces in place. Okay, go and end that. Okay, you can see that's pretty close to the edge. It's not exactly perfect, but that's okay. Now what you want to do is we're going to do the other side. But before you do that, you kind of need to get these pieces out of the way. So I'm not going to iron it yet. I'm just going to press it. I'm just going to kind of give it like a finger press. Just kind of get it out of the way. Like that. Okay, so now you're going to do the exact same thing, but you're going to do it on the other side of the zipper. But I'm going to go ahead and start pinning. I'm going to pin this so you can see how it pins in place. Okay, we're going to same thing again. Right side of the fabric to the right side of the zipper. Just keep this out of the way while you're sewing. You don't want it to go like that because then you're gonna have to unpick it. So just keep that laid down enough that it's not gonna get in the way. And also go ahead and line that up so it's lined up with the one on the other side. And then we're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna go ahead and pin this in place. Kind of pin it loosely at first. And you might need to pin this one a little bit more than the other one just because it's not laying super flat because you've got that extra bulk in there. Let's see, it's off a little bit there. You want to make sure you don't do that. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to pin the right side of this to the wrong side of the zipper. Line my pieces up. Keep those pins straight up and down so I can see them. Keep it on a flat surface. Once I pinned one of these and I just put it on my lap and it did not stitch together right because I think the curve over my lap, nothing got pinned together the right way and I ended up unpicking it. So sometimes it's just quicker, just do it right the first time. Okay. Running out of pins. Get some over here. Okay. Just a few more. Okay, so now I've got all the pins in. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have the lighter weight fabric facing down and I'm going to go ahead and stitch that into place. Okay. Get that going. Keeping those edges lined up. And I haven't got to the pole yet, but I know it's coming up. Right there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. Zip that to the other side. And just keep stitching this in place. Okay, go ahead and end that. So now you can see I've got that zipper panel sewn. Now we're going to need to press it. Get these pins out of the way. Okay. Yay. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead, and you wanna make sure that that fabric is away from that zipper and you don't have any like gapes or any folds. Just kind of really like push that out of, see, okay, so see right here, that's kind of folded over. You don't want that. You want that to lay out and lay flat. And you can do this with an iron, but sometimes I notice like that first time you put the iron down, it kind of really sets that seam in place. So you don't want to do that until you've kind of got it like you want it in general. I usually start on the lining side, and I'll go ahead and press it. The other thing too, you need to be careful of this step is, depending on the type of zipper you have, the metal zippers especially get very hot when you iron them. So you want to make sure that you don't touch the zipper. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to press this in place. Go ahead and just work slowly down the zipper. And those zipper pulls are in the way again, so I'm going to go ahead and move them out of the way. You do want to go ahead and keep the zipper zipped though, because you want to keep your shape. And if you unzip your zipper too early, you're going to run the risk of getting your piece misshapen. Okay, just to the end there. Okay, I'm going to come back around the front. So by this point, the front should look pretty good. Pull that out of the way. Okay, and I want to actually point something out on my zipper panel that I've noticed as I've been doing this. So you'll notice that my center fronts right here are off a little bit. They're off by about 1/4 of an inch. So in the next step, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go ahead and fold that over, and then you're going to want to go ahead and mark it, and then find out which one is the right one. So this is the right one. So what I will go ahead and do before I keep moving on is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remark that center seam again. Just because if it's off a little bit, it's not a big deal, but to me that's off a significant amount that it might mess up the construction. Okay, so after you do that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to top stitch down the edge of the zipper. The first thing I think you should do though actually is go ahead and make sure your zipper moves. Because if you've sewn this seam too close to the edge of the zipper, you're not going to have enough width for that zipper pull to move. And you have enough opportunity at this point in the construction that you could go back and unpick that and start again. So just make sure that moves. Everything else looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to top stitch down the edge of the zipper, and that's just going to really help to keep the fabric out of the way while you zip and unzip that zipper. So I've still got the zipper foot on my machine. And when I do a top stitch, I like to go ahead and change my stitch length. So I'm going to take it up to about a 3. Just think it looks a little bit nicer. Go ahead and start. Then you're going to right down the edge. And I definitely think with top stitching that the faster you move, the better it's going to look. And if you can try and avoid stopping, even better. So you can see I've top stitched that edge, gives it a nice finished look. I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch the other one, and then make sure, like I said, those zipper pulls stay out of the way while you're sewing. That pulled out. Just keep stitching straight down that edge. Get to the end. Okay, you just have one last step to complete before you move on to the next part of the pattern. Is we need to go ahead and we need to add a little bit of the cording or piping that you used on the outside of the bag. Same one you're going to go ahead and put on this one. So, okay, remember you don't ever sew over the top of the zipper. So you can see I've got plenty of place here for this. If for some reason this was a little closer, you need to adjust the seam allowance. You need just enough seam allowance to stitch this on. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pin the right side to right side of this. Come down, just like that. I'm gonna cut that off just kind of generally. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put that cording foot back on my machine. Okay, so remember what we said about putting piping or cording on is you always are gonna keep stitching over the same seam over and over again. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that. So I need to, because I'm not sure where my needle is, I need to go ahead and put this down. Now you can see my needle is in totally the wrong place. So I need to go ahead and move it over 3 clicks to the right and then stitch that. I'm gonna go right over that same seam again and make sure I stay out of the way of the metal part of the zipper. Okay, come off the edge. And we need to do the same thing to the other end. And you can see this end is isn't perfectly lined up at the end. So I'm gonna use my piping to make it line up. So I'm going to make sure that my piping is perpendicular to my zipper right here. Okay, one more pin. Okay, so I got that pinned. I'm going to kind of generally cut that off. Put it back in. Stitch it in place. I'm going to stitch that down. I'm just going to double check on the back since that was off a little bit that I caught all of my seam, and I did. Then I'm just going to go ahead and trim that piping even with the edge. Okay, and there you're done. So now you've got your zipper panel piece finished.